Crickets chirped on the windowsill as I laid awake in bed, staring up at the ceiling. The chirping was accompanied by the faint sound of music from my earbuds sitting a few feet away, next to my cracked phone sitting on the floor. As I laid there, images continued to flash through my head. Drake and Kira on the balcony, me facing down the final developer while Jack tried to hold him down, Zoe firing at me during the heist, and finally the burning suit of armor I saw only hours ago. It was 2 in the morning, and I was still unable to sleep. I expected the others to be awake all night, celebrating our 3 victories. But surprisingly, they were all passed out. Dion was asleep when I logged out, but Ethan was laying down and Kieran was reading an ebook. However, they all fell asleep within the hour. All of us except for me. After a while, I finally decided to get up. I groaned and sat up in bed, tossing my phone to the side and walking out of the bedroom. I stepped into the other room and looked into the kitchen, seeing the moonlight shine through the window and illuminate the room. I approached the window, stumbling past Dion's backpack and stepping into the kitchen. I reached into the cupboard and pulled out a loaf of bread, along with a jar of peanut butter. The school had stocked us with a bit of food, or at least enough to have a snack every now and then. As I spread the peanut butter on the first slice of bread, I stared out the window. I could make out a figure in the moonlight, shining in the darkness. For a second I thought it was an angel, but I quickly realized it wasn't. The wings were dark, and its eyes were red. Ethan? Ethan! I turned around as it neared the window, and I dived forward as the window shattered. The dark shadow burst through the window and forced me to the floor, dragging me along the ground and throwing me against the wall. I groaned as I hit the wall and reached for my sheath. It wasn't there. This was the real world. Or was it? This couldn't be real, could it? The shadow reached to its belt, pulling out a thin piece of metal. I stood up and watched as a white blade burst forth from the hilt, a black crackle of electricity run down the blade. Drake stared into my eyes with his blood-red glare, and all I could do was cower against the wall. Ethan! He smirked.
Your friends can't save you. This is your fight.
Drake stepped back, forming a fireball in his hands. He then threw it into the bedroom, causing the entire room to burst into flames. I ran forward and screamed, No, no, no! Kieran! Ethan! Dion! Before I could get close, Drake swung at me. I ducked and stepped back as he approached me, his weapon at the ready. He smirked and whispered,
Shh. Just accept it. You're mine now. And so is Kira.
He swung, and at that moment my body jolted upwards. I stepped away from the window, almost dropping my half-finished sandwich on the floor. I fumbled for the plate and caught it, placing it back on the kitchen counter. I gave a sigh of relief before grabbing the cereal box off the counter, pouring some small, colorful circles into the sandwich. As I closed the sandwich and took a bite, I thought about calling Naomi. The nightmares seemed to stop after our talk a few days ago, but now they were back. Or at least it seemed. It could be a one-time thing, or maybe it wouldn't stop unless I got therapy or something. I took another bite of my sandwich and turned around, only to see the doorknob twist. I quickly dived under the table, my sandwich hanging from my mouth as the door slowly opened. I watched as the door opened and a figure stepped inside, stopping beside a glass table. He set down a glass and sighed.
Tonight is the night.
Ethan? I asked, crawling out from under the table. He looked at me as I crawled out, still holding my sandwich. He looked at me with confusion as I stood up and set it down on the table.
What are you doing awake?
He asked as he slowly slid the bottle in his hand behind his back. Making a sandwich, I lied. Well, technically that was the truth.
The sandwich. With cereal?
He questioned. I shrugged. It tastes good. You want one?
No, I'm good.
Ethan said as he tried to walk past me into the bedroom. But I did something I'd never have done before any of this. I grabbed his hand, stopping him from walking away. If I'd done that to Liru, she would have stabbed me. To Kieran, he would have turned me into a squirrel. But Ethan simply stood there, still hiding the bottle. Why are you awake? I asked him.
Just getting a drink.
He lied. Well, technically that was the truth too. I reached out and grabbed the bottle from him, tossing it onto the table. A half-empty bottle of vodka, hopefully not drunk by him. I looked up at him as he stared down at the floor, not wanting to look at me. Hey, what's going on? I asked him concernedly.
Nothing.
He answered quickly, not wanting to say anything more. I crossed my arms and muttered under my breath. I thought I had problems with eye contact.
You don't know the half of it.
He muttered back. I do. More than you know, I told him as I looked back up at him.
Really? You're an orphan. I get it. My dad's dead too. And I'm lucky to have my mom still up and kicking. Not to be rude, but I've been through shit too. And probably far more than you've ever been.
He told me as he finally looked up at my eyes. I could see faint tears forming in the corner of his hazel green eyes. I scoffed and smiled. Have you ever been slapped across the face multiple times by half of your class? Ever been beaten down in every single fight you get into? Tossed aside like a useless rag doll? Have you watched your friends die in front of you and their life placed in the hands of you and your non-existent abilities? Have you fallen in love, respected that love by distancing yourself from them because they're in a relationship, and then watched their significant other rape them in front of you? My smile faded as I spoke, and eventually tears formed in my eyes as well. I broke down and sniffled, staring down at the floor as well.
Aldren, what happened to you?
Ethan asked. I could ask the same thing, I answered him, but it's a lot.
Well, get to explaining.
He said as he grabbed 2 clear plastic cups from the kitchen.
I got time.
You go first. Mine's a long story, I told him as he handed me one of the cups. Ethan poured a bit of the alcohol into each of our cups, though I was a bit reluctant to drink. Nevertheless, I took a small sip and immediately set the cup down. A bit weird, I said as I tasted it.
Yeah, you'll get used to it after a while.
He said as he took a sip. I nodded. All right then. Spill. He took a deep breath before beginning.
I lived with my mom most of my life. Dad dipped when I was 4, so it was just us. Everything was fine at first, and life was pretty good, till I turned 15. Beforehand, I rarely had friends over, or friends at all. But then, I met a small group of kids. The red flags were everywhere. But I didn't care. I was stupid. And I was dumb. I still am. Mom didn't approve, but I didn't care. Snuck out one night to hang out with them, and something happened. We were all comfortable with each other at that point. Too comfortable. An older boy named Jared, his younger brother Tegan, their friend Shin, and a girl. I don't even remember their name. At first we had fun. Broke into an abandoned house and made a small fire with the old furniture. But after a while, it went bad. They drugged me. I drank too, and when I woke up, I was laying in the corner of the room, no clothes, a black eye, and they were all gone. When I went upstairs, they were whispering about me. I confronted them, and they told me what I did. I raped her, Aldren, the girl. They told me that I raped her, and they both tried to stop me. And one of them knocked me out.
I could see the tears in his eyes, and I stepped back a few feet. I was unnerved by what he said. For a single moment, my body heated up and my fist balled up. But when I saw the tears streaming down his cheeks and the dread washing over the two of us, I stopped. Had I become friends with a rapist? You raped her? I asked in a broken voice.
That's what they said, and that's what I believed. And that's what everyone believed. It got so bad I stopped going to school. Bullied, glared at, treated like absolute shit. I tried to kill myself twice. Once with pills, and I ended up in the hospital for a month. Second time, I tried to hang myself with a phone cord. Yeah, obviously that didn't end well at all.
He continued, taking another drink from the glass afterwards.
It was about 2 weeks ago that things changed. Or at least somewhat changed. I woke up, walked out my front door, and that girl was standing out front. I tried to ignore her, but all it took was one sentence to get my attention. She told me that she lied. Everything was a lie. She did it with me. I didn't entirely agree, but I didn't have the ability to stop her. And in the morning, she was ashamed, and the others coerced her into lying. She raped me, told me I raped her, and ruined my life.
So, you didn't do it? I asked him carefully. He shook his head.
Not according to her, no. I always found the initial story a bit weird because I was never like that. Didn't lay a finger on anyone that wasn't family, and even then, I don't really like hugs or physical contact at all. And then she told me that I didn't. I just kind of broke. Sat on the curb for a few hours just thinking things over. Then I got an email about the school, so I told Mom I wanted to transfer. A fresh start for me.
He sniffled and reached out to refill his glass, but I grabbed the glass from him and took it. I pushed them both to the side and looked into his eyes. Sorry. I never would have known.
It's fine. Just a bit hard to deal with the fact that a few thousand people all think I'm a rapist. And those 4 people I thought I was friends with did that to me. I thought this would be a fresh start, but it's just taking a toll on me, man.
He explained to me as he began to pace back and forth. I hear you. Shit before this school was hard, I told him. He turned to me and asked.
Well then, your turn. What's your story, Aldren?
I took a deep breath and began to explain. Dad died. Not sure how exactly, but my mom got a phone call when I was 12, I think. Didn't really grow up till then, and yet I still make bad decisions. Bullied at school for being American, left alone at home all day while my mom worked to support the 3 of us, friendless just like you. Besides Naomi, it was only my sisters by a friend at that point. I didn't really have anyone. Actually, at some point I considered making the virtual assistant in my phone my best friend, but its limited responses kind of killed that idea. We both chuckled for a second at the desperate thought of someone's best friend being a half-assed computer, but the smiles faded quickly. Anyways, it was one day in September when I tried to kill myself. I got called names at school as usual, berated by my teachers, and at the end of the day, this one guy, James, beat me up. Threw me against the floor, tried to take my money from my backpack, and walked away without a scratch when he was done. Another boy, Axel, actually helped me out. But even after that, I knew what I had to do. My mom sent me downtown to get money for the week, and when I was there, I decided to end it. Tried to walk into the street. Well, when I tried, a man stopped me. I don't know whether or not he knew what I was trying to do, but he stopped me and gave me directions to the store I was going to. I went to the store, but I passed by a game store. The same man told me about DragonLight Online, and I saw something in that game. Just a twinge of hope. And it was enough for me to stop myself.
So the game saved your life?
Ethan asked. I shook my head. What saved my life were the people inside. I met Kira that day, and then Liru and Jack. 3 of them, they're close to me. I met Kieran the day after, and then Cora, Katie, and Anton 2 days later. Claire shortly after, and then Naomi joined us too. We conquered all 5 bosses, made a few friends along the way. You went to the ball.
I couldn't attend. I was in the hospital during that time. So I just watched a few videos afterwards of the people who recorded the event. Really turned to shit, huh? That whole Minotaur fight and then the Hellhounds. To be honest, I kind of would have preferred Hellhounds to that shitty mental hospital.
Ethan said. I nodded and continued. Anyways, so we beat all the bosses, met a few people. One of them was a boy named Drake. Started dating Kira, and I walked in on them kissing for the first time, I think. Kind of awkward for a while, but he said we were friends, and we all went to a party after we beat the final boss to celebrate. Jack threw it for us, and we all had a lot of fun.
So, what went wrong?
He asked, dreading the answer. He Well, the party went okay for most of it. Then I got dared by Liru, I think. Remind me to thank her later. She dared me and Kira to go in the closet for 5 minutes, and she kissed me. I was happy, but then sad because I thought Drake was upset. He broke up with her that night and left, just left without saying a word to anyone but Kira. She was crying in the other room, and I comforted her, and then shit went down.
What happened?
Well, we got a message saying there was some event going on in the plains. Some boss running around that would drop a ton of world chips if you killed it. So me, Claire, Cora, Kieran, Liru, and I, we all went out to find it. We found Drake's guild waiting for us. Killed Cora, killed Claire, killed Kieran, nearly killed Liru. I fought Drake, and he beat me, trapping me against the trees with my own 2 swords. He pinned down Kira, and he raped her. I tried to stop him, but I just couldn't. He teleported away after, and she logged off immediately. Liru followed, and I ran back to the others only to watch Axel die in my arms. The second week passed at midnight. Many others died, too. I explained to him, beginning to tear up towards the end.
Dude, I'm so sorry. Fuck, is she okay? What happened?
She's fine now. I think, at least. She didn't log on all week, and I checked once a day and messaged Kieran to tell me if she logged on at all. After 5 days, I got sick of it and went after her. I got her address, rode my bike through a ditch to get her to her house, and found her only a few seconds from killing herself. We both talked, and, well, we admitted our feelings. She kissed me, and we both did stuff and things.
Stuff and things? Like, watch a movie?
I facepalmed. Ethan, you're so dense. No, we had sex.
Oh. Oh, nice, dude. Oh, well, actually not, because it was kind of heat of the moment thing, right? Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll shut up now.
No, it's fine, dude, but yeah, things kind of got better for like another day and a half. Went to conquer the timer and things went bad on the 50th floor. Third timer hit, Naomi was gone. So were a lot of people in my school. I began to realize that everyone else wasn't so different. They played games just like me, so I kept fighting and tried to bring Naomi back. I couldn't. So we did it without her.
Did what without her?
I took a long, deep breath before admitting the secret I'd kept for so long. We conquered Dominus Tower. His jaw dropped and his eyes widened. All 100 floors. Killed a Nephilim, a few skeletons, slayed the dragon, fought the developer, and somehow won. Took all we had to win, yet somehow we managed to save the lives of over 1 billion people.
Dude, that's amazing. You're the champion of DragonLight. That's awesome.
He said with a smile, wiping away his tears. I shrugged. I guess. I mean, the armor is pretty cool. Didn't really help with my mom being dead and all.
Wasn't your mom supporting you and stuff?
His face dropped. Yeah, for that last week and a half, she was around a lot more. Didn't know why until I got off the game one day after a fight with a giant slime and found her dead. Laying in the kitchen, bullet holes in her body, and Chloe crying at the bottom of the stairs. According to Rose, she was working with a syndicate, a gang of some sort to support us. She sold drugs, weapons, her own body to keep us safe. Until eventually one of them asked for one of us. She refused, and they killed her. Drive-by shooting, and the killer's still out there somewhere.
That's fucked up.
I nodded. Yeah. We're both a bunch of fucked up people.
Mm-hmm. Bit of an insomniac, too. Haven't been able to sleep in a while. Last time I actually slept was maybe Tuesday night?
Dude, don't you have meds? I asked, looking to the small pill bottles on his bedside table. He shook his head.
Don't work. Take 2 before I go to bed, and I'm supposed to be out like a light. Doesn't do shit to help, and I'm left laying awake all night.
You should talk to a doctor about that, I told him. He shook his head again.
I don't like doctors much. Not since the hospital.
Well, I'll be your doctor then. Dr. Aldren, PhD, I said jokingly. He smiled weakly.
Yeah, I guess.
I could see there was still something wrong. I sighed and asked him, "Hey, instead of laying back down and failing to fall asleep again, do you want to get online?"
Oh, sure. I'd be up for a shootout.
I shook my head. "Not there. Somewhere else. The Atolan realm."
Oh, that works too. Right now?
I nodded and walked back into the bedroom, looking over my shoulder to make sure he followed. He approached his bed and laid down quietly, making sure not to creak the bed at all and wake up the others. He grabbed his 5 vision and slipped it on, and I did the same. I slipped on my headset and waited, tapping the Atolan realm button when the prompt came up. A black and white light began to flash across my field of vision, until it all faded away. The twinkle of fairy lights, the crackling of the burning fireplace, the cat purring as it rested on the couch. I spawned in fast, finding myself resting on the couch back at the house. I yawned and stood up, stretching as I accompanied myself to my avatar. I hadn't been on the Atolan realm in a few weeks, so it was nice finally getting to play here for a while. However, it would take a bit for me to get used to using a sword again, instead of a machine gun. With a flick of my wrist, I opened the menu, scrolling down to Ethan's name. Friend lists were shared between Whelms, so I still had him friended. According to the list, he was in Bandora City somewhere. Walking all the way here would take too long, so I closed the menu and bolted upstairs. I slipped into Kieran's room, finding the place filled to the brim with all his wizard stuff. His bed was made of a dark spruce wood, his sheets a wizardly purple color. His walls were lined with desks, many of them containing potions, ingredients, and several cauldrons. I passed by a mysterious crystal ball, reaching forward and grabbing one of the instaportal potions he made. After obtaining the potion, I ran outside, stopping in front of the house. I opened the menu once again and tapped on Ethan's name, messaging him to go to the front of Liru's blacksmith. He responded back with an OK, and a few minutes later messaged me again. "I'm here." I threw the bottle against the ground, watching as a puff of golden smoke appeared. A glowing portal appeared from the smoke, a golden ring of magic circling around the gateway. I shouted at it, "Liru's blacksmith!" The image within the portal began to change, and I watched as Liru's blacksmith appeared on the other side, and Ethan stood right beside it. I reached through the portal and grabbed his arm, yanking him through. He landed on the grass, and the portal closed behind him. Ethan wore a much different outfit than his other one, this one consisting of a light tunic and dark brown gloves, a dark brown belt, and a brown torn cape running down his back. He also wore brown trousers and black boots similar to mine, and a silver sword sheathed on his belt. The most prominent part of his outfit was the yin-yang symbol on his chest, slightly covered by his cape.
Whoa. Where are we?
He asked as he stood up and eyed the house. I smiled at it. "My home." He stood up, and we both walked down the newly built cobblestone path, heading to the front porch. We walked up the wooden steps, Ethan staring at the lanterns we had hanging above the railing. Inside were small glowing fairies, illuminating the porch with their light.
Fairies? Isn't that abusive?
"Nah, they like it." "Probably." We walked inside and he looked around, smiling at the place. The freshly cleaned kitchen, the weapon-filled living room, and the oak wooden staircase leading upstairs. I gestured him to follow and both headed upstairs, approaching the newly built ladder at the end of the staircase. I climbed up first and he followed, the two of us eventually reaching the roof. We walked across the roof and stood on the edge, sitting down and staring over the trees. In the distance we could see the lit-up Bandora City, and the surrounding areas around it. Dominus Tower was lit up, a glowing gold light shining out from the roof.
Wow. It's beautiful.
I nodded and looked up at the stars. Yeah, it's amazing. Liru chose the best spot for this place.
So she bought it?
Nope. Built it from scratch. Her, Kieran, Cora, Claire, Naomi, Anton, Jack, Katie, they all built this place for us to stay. It's a lot nicer than Liru's small place above her blacksmith, and it fits all of our needs. A secluded location, too, I explained to him. He nodded. I stood up and unsheathed my sword, swinging it right past his face. We stared at the long golden blade, our gaze moving towards the glowing star in the center of the hilt. It shined brightly, a glisten of light moving along the black outline of the star. His eyes then averted to the crack running down the sword and then the inverted half.
It's cracked.
he said as his smile faded. I nodded. Because it's... Well, actually, I still don't know why. But it has a dark half and a light half, and it allows me to split the two. I grabbed the hilt with both hands and tore the blade in two. Ethan stepped back as I pulled the golden half with my left hand and the black half with my right hand. I spun both blades and posed, letting Ethan stare at the two in awe.
Whoa. I've heard of people dual wielding, but never like this. That's really cool.
I nodded and merged the swords back into one before sheathing it once again. I then reached up to my neck and held the dragon necklace in my hand. A small purple aura surrounded the pendant, and Ethan stared at it as he waited for something to happen. Meet my guardian. His name is Devos, I told him as I squeezed the necklace tightly. His jaw dropped as a glowing purple creature flew out of my necklace, circling around me like a ghost. It finally stopped, staring at Ethan with its big black eyes as it floated by my side. Ethan reached forward, petting the stardust dragon on the head. Devos purred, smiling slightly as Ethan patted it.
Wow, a real dragon!
You're surprised? This is a fantasy world, I told him. He shook his head.
Yeah, but this is different. Aldren, besides the dragon at the top of Dominus Tower, have you ever seen a dragon in this game?
I think our hot tub is powered by them, actually.
No, those aren't real, just illusions. But from launch, there's always been one mystery. What happened to the dragons? People heard the roars from Dominus Tower and suspected the final boss was a dragon, but other than that, there's never been one seen in-game. None besides this one, and the other handful of people who possess the same necklace. It's not very common, however. Only available as a 0.18% drop chance from corrupted slimes. Where'd you get it?
A friend of mine gave it to me. Why?
Well, corrupted slimes have been in the game since launch, but they're theorized to be a part of this mysterious storyline behind the corruption area.
He said as he pointed into the distance at the new area. Just a few months ago, the map had changed. A new area had appeared, being dubbed the Corruption by the people around it. Since the game's launch, the entire right side of the map was coated in a thick fog. People theorized that the update that would be released after Dominus Tower was conquered would cause the fog to fade and reveal the rest of the map, and that update was marked to come in about 2 months. But until then, people settled with the new corruption area. Half of it was still hidden behind the fog, but the rest was still available, and revealed a new line of monsters, though most of those were just corrupted versions of normal monsters. The area was pretty large, and it seemed like it was growing. The grass was gray, same with the dead trees and the pools of corrupted black water. Heard a ruined castle was found deep within the area, but there wasn't much there but weird corrupted demons. The dark gray grass had also begun to spread into its neighboring area, the Crystal Desert. It moved slowly, but some of the sand had actually begun to turn gray. It was spreading, just like a virus. If there really wasn't a huge overarching story here, well, that'd be pretty cool, I said with a smile.
Yeah, being a part of something bigger. It'd be the chance of a lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Hey, do you want to head out to the city? Maybe get a drink and then go kill some monsters? I asked him as I stood back up. Ethan nodded and got up as well.
Sure.
Ethan ran forward and jumped off the roof, rolling through the grass as he unsheathed his sword. I followed, jumping off and face-planting on the rocks. He laughed at me as I got back up, rubbing the mark left on the side of my face. We both took off out of the forest, heading into the night. Watch your left.
Aldren, there's a direwolf! There!
Use your elemental attacks! Flame burst! Ethan and I stood back to back, our swords drawn. Ethan was holding his silver blade with both hands, staring down 2 darkly colored wolves as they eyed him closely. Meanwhile, I stood behind him, my star blade split in 2 as we watched 2 more wolves creep up to me.
What's the plan?
Well, in this situation, I'd sacrifice Kieran and run, but that's not an option this time.
Follow my lead, then.
He said before stabbing his sword into the ground.
Fiery Quake!
I did the same with my 2 blades, digging them into the ground and shouting, Fiery Quake! Glowing red cracks began to shoot out from our swords, running across the ground and splitting apart into more and more. After a few seconds, they began to open up, shooting sparkling red flames out of them. The wolves jumped back, 2 of them dying to the flames and the other 2 whimpering and running off. The attack stopped after a few minutes, leaving 2 small bags of gold behind them. Ethan and I knelt down, taking our loot before smiling at each other. We there yet? I asked him as he looked over the mighty map.
Just over the hill.
he said as we walked over the small hill, approaching the glowing city in front of us. The two of us stopped at the edge of the ridge, staring forward at the glorious masterpiece in front of us. Pandora City, the capital of this wandering realm of spells and monsters. It's been a while, I said nostalgically as I stared at its glory.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. We should come up here a lot more.
He said as he took a step forward. I did the same, and it took a few seconds before we realized we were staring at the edge of a cliff.
Ah!
We both tumbled down the ridge, rolling through the dirt, rock, and grass until finally hitting the bottom. We laid there and groaned before looking back up, eyeing the glowing gateway into the city. I groaned and sat up, Ethan following me as we entered the city. Music and lights surrounded us as we walked down the street, heading towards the bar that I faintly remembered as the Lazy Spoon that sat between a flower shop and a potions market. The two of us stepped inside, the beautiful, vibrant atmosphere being replaced with the dark, musty bar. I led Ethan over to an empty booth, and we both sat down, the scent of beer still lingering from the former patrons. 2 glasses appeared in front of us, and we both scrolled down the menu to choose our drinks. I chose lemonade as usual, and Ethan chose a soda.
So, since you're the champion now, you have the armor, right? The sword, too?
He asked me curiously. I raised my arm, showing the golden wristband Liru had crafted. I had on 2 at the moment, my battle armor and my champion armor. The red band was crafted with the armor Liru made us for Dominus Tower fights, and tapping the jewel on it would automatically equip the armor. The gold band would do the same for the champion armor, and was linked with the golden set I had hidden away.
Dude, you should use it.
He told me. I shook my head. Can't. Or, well, won't. I don't want people to know I'm the champion.
Why not? You'd probably get free drinks, free weapons, free everything. You're a hero. And you'd get all the fame and stuff for it.
Still, I don't exactly want that. I don't want to be treated like some celebrity. I'd prefer just being an everyday player with really, really bad social anxiety, I told him.
Never thought the champion would be that humble. Well, what do you want to do after this?
I shrugged. Maybe we could go kill some monsters in the corruption.
Or maybe we could go sledding. Or maybe we could...
Before we could finish, the building shook. Ethan's glass fell and he caught it at the last moment, keeping nothing more than a few drops from spilling out. I stood up and looked around, seeing a few clouds of dust drifting out of the cracks in the wooden ceiling. The shaking stopped a few seconds later, and I looked to Ethan for an explanation. What's going on? I asked him urgently. He chugged the last of his glass before grabbing my hand.
Come on, I'll show you.
The two of us ran out of the bar, along with a multitude of other people. He led me over to a ladder on the side of a nearby building, and the two of us began to climb. As I climbed up the ladder on the tall, skyscraper-like building, I looked out on the horizon and saw it. Many its. What is that?
It's... well, I'm not entirely sure.
We reached the top and looked out on the horizon, eyeing the large anomalies in the distance. Several cracks were running across the field near Dominus Tower, one of them pulsing with a dark purple light. I looked at each of them, frowning as I eyed the damage they were doing. 4 in total. How had I not seen these before? How long have they been here? I asked him.
A decent while. They began spawning in 3 weeks ago, every Saturday night. It completely slipped my mind, but I think it's leading up to the update or something. The update comes in the middle of February, the 15th week.
Nothing else has happened? I asked him. He shook his head.
Not really.
But when I turned my head to the left, I pointed out, then what's that? We both turned, eyeing Dominus Tower. It looked the same as always, except for one minor detail. A glowing light on the roof, shining as bright as a lighthouse. There were several players investigating the cracks in the distance, and a few near the tower, but none could get into the tower. None but the champion. Come on, we need to go, I told him as I headed towards the ladder. He followed, the two of us climbing down to the city below.